Welcome back to the Key in the Lake podcast, the premier whiskey podcast, now with the mention of whiskey in its title. Hey, this is Jake coming in live from Lakeview East, Chicago, Illinois, but I will not give out my address. But I am sitting in my basement where, I don't know, things happen, I guess. Not a lot of things, but some things. There is a bike machine thing that I ride sometimes, whiskey on the walls, and art to inspire me to really do not too much. So I had to have inspiring conversations with inspiring people to inspire me. So that's why Hannah Thomas is here.
Oh, I can't wait to inspire.
Thank you. Somebody's got to do it.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming back.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
On short notice. I guess it's only been 2 weeks. Was that 2 weeks we did the charity
podcast?
It was
2 weeks we did the charity podcast.
Feels like it's yesterday.
Everything feels like it's blurring together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The springtime.
Oh, I can't wait.
When it was snowing yesterday.
Yeah. I cannot wait. I'm ready for warmer weather.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it a lot easier to go out and see accounts when you're not freezing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. Or do anything, really.
That's true.
Yeah.
I stopped to get gas yesterday in between accounts, and the woman at the front counter was like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Back to work." And she's like, "Oh, you should just go home today." I'm like, "You're right, but I'm about an hour and a half away from home right now." I recognize that it is sleeting, snowing, and dropped 20 degrees in the day, but I'm gonna keep fighting the good fight and go sell some whiskey.
Selling whiskey. That's what we all do.
Technically.
Yeah.
Some are better at it than others. I'm not that great at it.
I'd say I'm pretty decent.
You say you are?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. Give yourself more credit, Jake.
It's maybe the reason why I see Stauning everywhere.
It could be. It could be. We've got a great team here, though, too. So
teams.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice working with people versus being by yourself at a market.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's been really great to have more bodies on Team Stauning and the growth and collaboration.
You're the only person here when you first started, right?
I was
moved here.
In Chicago, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or how many people did you have in New York with you?
Chris. So
that's it.
One. Yep.
Where's he work now?
He's at Widow Jane.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
We keep in touch. He's doing great.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I saw he had switched jobs, and I couldn't remember what distillery he was working for now, but that's a good fit for him.
Yeah, it is a good fit, and they're doing really well in New York. So yeah, it was he and I, and then I moved here, and it was me, and then we added a team relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why you see Stauning everywhere. There's a small army of us.
It beats being by yourself.
It does.
For somebody who worked in a market for nearly 5 years by themselves.
Yeah, exactly what it's like.
I mean, I had Redwood to help me.
That's true. You did. Keyword.
Keyword. Yes, indeed. Love those guys. Non-existent anymore, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's true.
That's unfortunate. Didn't know if it was completely gone or not. I haven't seen Jared forever, so I haven't run into him, but I think he still is here. I don't know. He texted me the other day. Actually, he texted me like a month ago about an account, so assume he's still here doing something. He was working.
Shout out.
Yeah, he was working. I think a Japanese distillery. But I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay. There was a question I was going to ask you about bars, but now I seem to forget about cocktail placements. That's what I was going to ask you for Stauning to fit into cocktails. Like, what's that approach like?
Oh man, it's kind of assessing the account first, right? So, understanding our ethos to my core, understanding it through and through.
The core of your heart or the core of your whiskey?
Both.
Okay.
Both, honestly. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to go and just place your brand and not have it do well, right? So it's about aligning with people.
That's one approach, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about aligning with people who believe in your brand story and the product itself. And, I've been on the podcast many times. We've talked about Stauning being a Danish whiskey, but first and foremost, we're a rye whiskey. So I think once you kind of peel back the layers, we are a rye whiskey first that's made in Denmark.
Right.
And then kind of incorporating the ideals that come from Danish culture. So really finding accounts and finding placements that fit that narrative and that are willing to work with us to like grow and educate on that too.
Sure.
So we'll have, we've got some really great cocktail placements coming up. I don't know if I should put the cart before the horse, but,
I was kind of thinking too, because of pricing, it's like not the expensive, but
it's not. We've got really great pricing support.
Good breaks on
good
that.
programming.
So.
Yeah.
Sure.
Good programming.
I did get you a bar placement in Michigan the other day.
You did. Well, it's interesting because we're not sold in Michigan. So what now, Jake?
Exactly. No, I was in Binny's, as one might do with our jobs, and was picking up a bottle for a sample. You see people are sitting in the international whiskey section staring at Japanese whiskey. near the Star Wars Stauning section as well. And I'm like, I'm just going to casually walk over there and see what they're up to.
It's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, it's the best. And they picked up a bottle. I can't remember what it was. A Japanese whiskey they were holding in their hand, and I was like, and they were like, kind of confused. You could tell they had a cart ready to buy a lot of whiskey.
Yeah.
And they asked me, "Do you know anything about this?" I'm like, I actually do. And like, do you know anything about all these bottles? I'm like, well, I've worked for that brand, this brand. And I'm like, that's the core for like the whiskey you're holding right now, like that 12-year, and you should definitely get that. So then I took my little journey through the entire whiskey section, and they bought like 15 bottles of whiskey.
Amazing.
Stauning being one of them.
Including Stauning.
Yeah, I'm like, well, you should have this Danish whiskey. Like, well, does Danish whiskey go with like, it's a Japanese restaurant, I think, in Saugatuck. And I'm like, yeah, it does. So I just basically went to all of our friends' brands and got a bottle.
You're like, you like this one and this one and this one. And they honestly all tie together with this very similar narrative and like direction.
Yeah. So when I'm at the Singapore room in Saugatuck this summer, because we go there every summer.
Okay.
I'll take a picture of that Stauning rye.
Thank you. Please do. Or just invite me. We'll go too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
First week of July or last week of June. Whenever the Pride Parade is, because we live in the route of the Pride Parade, and our driveway becomes the police headquarters for a day.
Okay.
We can't get out for over 24 hours.
So you leave.
So we leave just to get rid of through the chaos, because it's like 1.5 million people on our block for 2 days.
That also sounds fun though.
It's fun. It's fun when you're in your 20s and your early 30s, and then you have a kid and you're like,
we can't stay here.
Yeah, so we always try to align ourselves on a little vacation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you'll be drinking Stauning in Michigan.
Saugatuck.
Saugatuck.
That's where dreams come true.
Okay.
Yeah, where everybody from Chicago goes for their vacation. Probably 90% of the people that are walking around that town are from Chicago.
Okay.
As I've been told. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, they'll
I'll
be
tell
drinking
them,
Stauning up there. So
exactly. And I'll be like, hey, when you go back to Chicago, go to Binny's and buy some Stauning.
buy some more Stauning.
Yeah, like buy
And more Stauning.
buy Chaos.
And more Stauning.
Yeah, and Old Dirty Bastard or whatever you guys call it.
There's Bastard and then there's Dirty Bastard.
Is it really?
There's no Old Dirty
Is
Bastard.
there Dirty Bastard?
Dirty Bastard, yeah.
That's what you guys call it?
There's Bastard, which is our rye that's finished in mezcal.
Yeah.
And then there's Dirty Bastard, which is our rye that's been finished in mezcal casks, and then Mexican hot chocolate stout casks. Yeah, fun. Very experimental.
Barrel
Both
expiration.
of those are in the market.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's the label of the Mexican chocolate stout cask mezcal?
It's a black label
Okay.
with the writing, the light cream colored
Yep.
writing. Yep.
I was actually looking at that bottle when I was talking to those people, and I was like, just go with this one. It's the basic one.
Mm-hmm.
But I sold them like 2 bottles of Star Wars.
And by basic, he doesn't mean basic.
I do mean basic.
No, he does not. He means
Basic.
fantastic.
Basic like my wife.
Inspiring.
Whoa.
Jake.
She's never listened to 1 second of this podcast, so I don't think...
Well, I'm going to make sure she listens to this episode.
Yeah,
it's Women's History Month, after all.
That's true. Partially the reason why you're here, because we can only talk to women during the month of March. It's a rule.
Absolutely not.
It's a rule that the vice president of Keene Lake, Callum O'Donnell, created in 2022.
And that's why he's never on the podcast anymore.
Yeah. Also because he moved to New York. But he was here last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he never writes, never calls.
I saw him. Well, can you guess what bar I saw him at?
Arbella?
Yeah.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah.
It's funny that we all know that.
Yeah. He texted me at he was at some charity event pouring martingale, and we had plans to get together that night. I'm like, just let me know. I'll be around like about 9:30, 10 o'clock. He's like, hey, I'm on my way to Arbella. And I'm like, of course you are. Of course you are. I could have just showed up there and knew you would have been there.
Yeah. Showed up eventually.
And then we left, and I left, like hug, kisses, and all that good stuff. And he texted me. He's like, where'd you go? Because he was going to a nightclub, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to a nightclub on a Wednesday night at 11:30. I'm going to be a responsible adult parent and all that, and go to a dive bar.
As one does.
Yeah. So, no, good to see him. But yeah, he created that rule back in 2022. So here we are.
Here we are.
On
the month of March.
5th? 6th? 6th.
6th, except for...
Because the 7th is tomorrow, and I have a dentist appointment.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
I remember that. That's about the only reason why.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, you and I have talked and now are organizing a series of episodes based around women in the industry.
Yes, I'm so excited.
It's your idea, so it's something I've wanted to do for many years. As I mentioned to you, I've tried to do it with people from all parts, but schedules conflict and people don't necessarily live here or they're traveling a lot, and life happens.
Yeah,
But
life
it's nice to have
happens.
someone to help out with it.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
I think it's very cool. I mean, obviously, I love being on the podcast, and I think we've created, really great content over the past, year or so that I've been able to come on. And, not just because it's Women's History Month, but because it is a good time to reflect on how we are celebrating women in general and in the industry. And I think that there are more opportunities to do that in our industry. So it's less about saying, hey, it's Women's History Month, let's put all the women that we know on a podcast.
I mean, that's what I was doing.
And more about celebrating the the wins that are ongoing, the inclusivity that's ongoing, and yeah, what about women and having women in this whiskey industry makes it great.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's someone who's married. Well, she used to work for whiskey. Now she works in candy because she's a loser. Once again, she doesn't listen to the podcast. I just like to throw things out there every once in a while. Maybe I'll get back to her, and my mom might listen, so maybe she'll tell her about it.
And then you'll be in
That's okay.
the doghouse.
Yeah, it's where I usually live. So, no, but it's interesting from like her perspective of falling in love with Scotch when she first started. She liked Scotch, but like when you're looking for Lefroy and Beaumont and various other distilleries that Beam Suntory has in their portfolio, and then she went over to Scotland for like 10 days, 12 days for a complete immersion trip. Yeah, like kind of the dream trip of my life.
Yes.
And she gets to go as I was working in a lonely local distillery making $32,000 a year or whatever it was back then. And you're like, oh, that seems like really great. And she comes back with this whole full new appreciation of not just like how to market it, but how she enjoys it herself and all the intricacies that go into making that whiskey, and especially with Lefroy, like completely fell in love with it. And when, we go out and she'd order a Lefroy or order a penicillin, which is her favorite cocktail, I think it still is her favorite cocktail, people kind of like give her a look of like, oh, that's surprising. Or you would bring the penicillin to me or the Lefroy pour to me versus going to her.
Tisk.
Which also happened when I was a vegetarian for 6 years, and they'd always bring her to salad and bring me the burger.
Oh, no.
But the whole point is, like people of all shapes and sizes and colors and whatever can fall in love with certain things, not just based on who they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, not just based on their gender.
Yeah.
Turns out everyone can like whiskey and celebrate whiskey and drink whiskey and know whiskey and market whiskey and work in whiskey. It goes on and on and on. So, I think that's what I'm mostly excited about. And I think, the guests that we have are going to really shine a light on different perspectives and different aspects of our industry, which is really great. And
we'll leave it as a tease of who they are.
Exactly. That's
you never know what's going to happen and fall through.
Also true.
I never tell people.
No.
And whenever I do, that person inevitably is like cancellation.
Actually, yeah.
But we can say it's somebody who is a rep, somebody who runs a bar program, and somebody who is on the back end of everything, and how all you people order whiskey and spirits online. She's an expert, in my opinion, on that.
Yeah. So I think, celebrating all different positions within whiskey and kind of, I think it's really important to highlight, the EQ that women can bring to this industry, to an otherwise very male-dominated industry as a whole, not even just whiskey. Right?
Oh, yeah.
We're speaking like industry
Spirits.
as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
So
can you tell me what EQ means?
Just emotional awareness,
Okay.
Emotional understanding. And
I don't know all the acronyms.
Yeah.
BRB, still trying to figure it out.
Be right back. And on that note, we'll take a break. Just kidding.
Yeah. We could take breaks.
No, I just think, I think it's not celebrated enough. I guess I've used that word about 10 times now.
No,
but
what do you mean by celebrate?
When you're a female in the whiskey industry and you walk into a tasting and you're the only female there, and you're exercising your knowledge of whether it's the production process or your palate or how you would market this whiskey or how you want to use it in cocktails. I think that, there's a different perspective that can be offered and listened to and heard and implemented. And so I think celebrating all of those things.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I like that a lot. And also, I guess there's probably circumstances in which you're not intimidated, but like people in a way try to intimidate you because they're assholes.
Yeah, once or twice.
Yeah.
It's not gonna fall on deaf ears, I don't think. I mean, that's very prominent in this industry,
happens.
right? But that's not the whole point of bringing women on a podcast. I don't think it happens in the industry regardless. And
Yeah.
no, I think, at this point, like there's nothing to be intimidated by. Just as like you're talking to a room full of people, whether it's men, women, what have you, and no one should be intimidated to share their palate or share their experience with the whiskey or, anything like that. So I don't necessarily know if there's anything to be intimidated by, but I think what is intimidating to certain crowds is females in whiskey who actually know their shit.
Yeah.
I think that can be kind of intimidating sometimes, and therefore it's not as recognized as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's like from whatever perspective I have, I always love it when I'm talking to somebody and they're guy or girl, and all of a sudden they like start spewing off all this information. Like, I'm like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, I bartend here, or like I've worked in this thing or worked for this brand. I'm like, oh great, and it's a kindred spirit. Like, I found you. Like, here you
kindred
are.
spirit.
Yeah.
I like what you did there.
Yeah. Well, it's like sometimes you're talking to groups, you get at an event, and it's just people who are curious. They could be novices. Somebody who just like has a drink of, maybe they have 20 bottles at home and they have a drink or two each week, but they want to get more into it. And there's people that would, kind of like in the expert level of collecting and drinking and knowing things about brands. And then you find somebody who actually works in that industry, and you can find that parallel thinking and liking a lot. It just makes it kind of, for me, it's like, I'm going to focus on you when I'm talking now for like the 20, 30 minutes we're giving our pitch at events. But like, oh, like someone who can truly understand me. I know you're there. Like, it's like comfort in a way.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Versus like the intimidation part of it,
Yeah.
Male or female, like I said, because, you never know. You can go to an event with 25 people that have no idea what you're talking about. Or you can go to an event where you have 20 people who are like asking you, well, so when do you guys make your heart cut? And how long does it last for? So
sure.
It's always a different group of people.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that in general is something to be, really proud of. And I just think, whiskey's kind of intimidating to get into.
Oh, yeah. It was intimidating for me. Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's been a while now, obviously. But when I first started drinking, I was like, is this right? Like, had I not had the wine experience, I guess, and like the palate and like, things like that from wine, I would have been completely at a loss, I think. So it is a little bit intimidating. Like, is this right? Is my palate correct? Is like this? And then all of a sudden one day you're like, I'm not going to second guess anything, and I'm just going to own it. Mm-hmm. And then, I'm really proud. Look at my career now, and like look at the other things that we can kind of instill back into the industry. Yeah. Things like that. So I think, it's about owning your space within this industry is super important.
Confidence in what you're saying. Just go with it.
Exactly. Fake it till you make it. Just
kind
kidding.
of, in a way. There's a partial element to that that's very true. I mean, it's like someone asks you, like, what yeast strain do you use? And you're like, I don't know, like, make it up or whatever. Say this, or like, what barley do you use? And you're like, we use this local barley. Like, just go with it. They're not gonna know, and who cares at that point.
I absolutely never do that for the record.
What do you mean? Like, do you don't tell them, or you say?
No, I don't fake it till I make it.
No, I know what you mean. But there are people that I definitely have done that, where you speak with like tours at distilleries I've worked at, where I start talking about stuff, and I don't really know if like this is a true story of how they came about making this, but like if it sounds good, there's a lot of truth to it, but there might be like 10% like, I don't really know, but just kind of go with it, and people are like, oh wow, that's very interesting. Yeah. Or you're throwing out historical facts, and you're like, I think 1790, let's call it, and this happened, or like the late 1800s. You're like, wow, right? I'm like, it might have been the early 1800s. I don't really know, but like I know how the impact of that historical event now is affected today.
Yeah.
So just kind of that kind of stuff I'm talking about.
The details. The devil's not in the details. It's okay.
I came to a conclusion that God is in the details. I'm not really religious. I'm not a religious person at all, but I wrote that on a notebook years ago, and it's still floating around here somewhere, I think. Yeah. It might have just been sitting in this room, drinking whiskey at the time, staring at things, staring at some Salvador Dali prints, fake prints, very fake prints. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's more in that book if you want. Then
if I want, them.
Hiding behind that Macallan 25. That's just an empty box. It literally is. Just the box, the outer box, the cardboard box.
Jake is a hoarder.
Getting to there. High Life buckets. But that was a magical night when I won that High Life bucket. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I interrupted a High Life party. I made it a Star Wars party.
That checks out.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's cool for just like people in general to share their stories. And I was talking about this a little bit on the charity podcast, how this podcast has evolved into so many different things, but like started off as a storytelling podcast. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the women I had on the podcast the very beginning days was like if you want to talk about like the problems you face as being a woman in this industry, I'd love to, but I would like just want to hear your story. Like, what do you feel about it? Like, how is it your passion that you're working in? Like, some people are like super bar owners. They're like, this is my dream to own a bar. And now I'm doing, I'm like, cool, let's just talk about that. Like, I'm going to fixate on like the negative things or things that I don't know. Like, I don't want to be like the guy who's sitting there telling you like, this is how like people should feel, no matter who you are. So I think just focusing on people from all sides of the industry, but like you said, celebrating the fact that they are women too is really cool.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, exactly. I mean, you just said it, they're women too. So it's not that they're women first in this industry.
Oh,
And by we,
yeah, that's what I was trying to say. That's what I was
well,
trying
no,
to say.
it's not that we're women first in the industry. We're women too. So we can do X, Y, and Z really damn well. And then we're women. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that, I do think it's really important to highlight the discrepancies and grievances that happen in our industry, specifically because we are women. But I don't think it's important to focus on it, because if you hyperfixate, there's no progress moving forward anyway. So I like, it's working for this whiskey or making this amazing cocktail or being award winning or whatever, and then we're women as well. So I think that that's something that, that's kind of what's inspired me to bring this idea to you and include more women on the podcast.
Is there positive change you've seen in your time working in this space?
I would say so, yes, but it is not without really hard work and grit, and also not being afraid to call it out. That's really tough.
I love seeing anybody call anything out. So
I know you do, and I think I think more men need to, frankly, and not to put the onus on men versus women, but I'm saying it's like, if as a collective we called out wrongdoings, no matter what they were, there would be progress. And so I think that over the past, I would honestly say 2 years only, I've seen improvement. And that's because you've got really great groups that are focused on celebrating women, raising awareness, and also, calling things out as they see them.
Have you seen that change happen in both New York, where you previously were, and Chicago?
I would say if we're...
No, I just want to.
I know. I'm trying to think about how to say this.
Yeah.
If we're thinking at like account level and on the ground, have I seen the change? No.
Okay.
I think that top level, like broader awareness has improved. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, I think it doesn't really depend on the market at all. I think it's all the same.
Yeah, because more. Yeah, exactly. Kind of more of like a cohesive industry in that sense, where like you can see it changing throughout the country versus
exactly.
Obviously individual markets are gonna be a little bit different here and there, depending on who lives there and what it might be. But no, I definitely, obviously there's a lot of events, groups, activations, if you will, about having people of all differences.
And whiskey is a really amazing space. We should bring women into whiskey. If you think about it, until the percentage is like 50-50, if 50% women drinking whiskey, I haven't done my job.
Sure.
Because, and it goes back to the intimidation factor. People are scared to dabble into something they don't know. And as a female in this industry, my goal is to loop more women into this industry, into enjoying whiskey, into the conversation, and I think that that's really, it's a huge opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity. I also think it's a responsibility.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's interesting to see even like older generations, like my parents, some of their friends, I was, back home whenever, and they have 3 friends, women who are about 55 to like 65, I guess, in that age range, something like that. And they're people I've known for 20, 25 years. I've never seen any of them, like guys and girls, drink whiskey when growing up. It was always like beer or like wine or something. And now there's like 3 women who are like absolutely in love with it, and they asked me for recommendations. Like text me like pictures of bottles, like, this is worth buying. I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. Or like, no, stay away from it. Or like, I'll bring you some stuff when I'm back in town and drop it off at my parents' house. That way. Some of them stole some bottles from me too. I'm still very bitter about that. Boomers, they're very selfish in that sense. I brought like 6 bottles to a party, and they for some reason thought like I was just like, giving them bottles.
Jake, that's what happens. Don't show up without bottle. Like, you prepare whenever. This is a little etiquette.
It's my parents' house.
Etiquette 101.
It wasn't like I went somewhere. Just,
If you show up with something, be prepared to leave without it.
I wouldn't. expect guests of my parents' house to take things with them, though.
That's bizarre.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they-
It's like,
okay.
I was visiting my parents one weekend. I came back from wherever I was, and we like had a bottles. I'm like, oh, you should try this and try that, and like here's like Macallan, here's some Starward, here's whatever else. And the next morning, I'm like packing my car, and I get whatever. I was at the box. I had some whiskey, and I'm like, that's very light. And I'm like, there's only 2 bottles in here. There was 6 in here last night.
Oh, that's funny. Okay,
Yeah.
now I hear you.
Yeah,
Now I hear
no.
you. You're
I would
like,
never.
people actually still.
No, I would. Whenever I go to someone's house and bring a bottle, I'm like, this is staying
That's
here.
staying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay.
like there's only one time where I brought an Eagle Rare Pick to a party and no one opened it. I'm like, I'm taking this
You're
home
like,
with. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I've done that too.
But I'm also gonna deal where no one sees me take it because I do feel weird about it. I feel cheap doing that.
Yeah.
But
That's
no, my parents' basements, they're like all full of like the bottles I just leave there. They're like, well, I don't have to like, buy much because you just leave things here. I'm like, oh, you still have that? Oh, interesting.
Right,
I'm like, let's drink that.
Yeah,
tonight.
exactly.
So
That's
no,
great.
I keep them well stocked that way. I would never go to a party and just open a bottle and have it, take it with me.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, I don't know.
You know who would?
Callum.
Exactly.
He's cheap and Scottish, or Scottish and cheap, I should say.
That's funny.
No, who are you gonna say?
Matt Brown.
Ooh, he might. He might have to restart the "fuck Matt Brown" campaign. So
Oh no, I did not.
he might have.
I did not.
It got so bad that he called me one day crying and was like, "Can we stop doing this? It's not funny anymore."
He's got big feels.
He wasn't crying, but he did ask me if he could stop doing it. But he's also shadow banned from me on Instagram too.
Okay.
Him and Steve Malloy. Only Malloy's Glen Ellen. I can't find them. It's weird.
That is weird.
I can't tag them all the time. It's very strange.
So, okay. Well,
Yeah.
We'll dig into that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Malloy. Helpful. Well, what are the conversations you're excited to have with these guests coming up this month?
I am super excited to speak to another.
You do know you're co-hosting it with me, right?
I am,
Okay,
which is like such an honor.
I'm not
and
sure
I'm
about.
so excited.
It's not an honor. I just didn't know if I actually ever visibly or audibly said it out loud. I guess whatever.
I think. Well, yeah.
I insinuated it maybe.
You insinuated it, and
yeah.
I was like, oh boy.
Because the original idea was to have like a big group
Chatting,
and I was
correct.
Like, yeah, it's 4 or 5 people. Sometimes can get whatever. But like,
Yeah.
why don't we just tell like the individual people like their short stories?
No, I think it's great, and then have the conversations flow as they will, as they always easily do. No, I'm super excited to co-host. I think that'll be really great. But I'm excited to have another female salesperson hop on and talk about her priorities and what what excites her about the industry and whiskey in general and her experience. And then I think I'm really looking forward to discussing like the creative elements, right, of of whiskey in general and how it's being brought to the Chicago market or being applied in bars and cocktails, or even like the wider market in general, like the online platform, the whole e-commerce side of the business. Like the creativity, I think, is going to be really interesting conversation from a few different angles. Also, I think it's important too to maybe discuss how women in the industry can lift each other up.
Yeah.
I think that's equally as important as celebrating women in the industry. It's how do women in the industry work together
And actually mean it.
and mean it.
Yeah.
And mean it. And I think that that's very true.
Yeah.
Mean it. There is, I will say I've been very fortunate as of late to connect with females in the industry who have helped me out a ton.
That's cool.
Helped me out a ton, and hopefully they feel like it's reciprocal and genuine and honest, and it's I think that is extremely, extremely important. Yeah, to discuss as well, and just get some different opinions on that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. The person we're talking to from the online space, like even with their name, like if you never met them, you wouldn't know necessarily if it's a girl or a guy.
True.
But she's also definitely worked in offices and other spaces too.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to know if like she's ever received any like different feedback after like they do understand like she's a woman. Because
Oh, yeah.
that happens all the time
Yeah.
with people, like just through emailing, then you meet that person, hear those stories too frequently. But I would wonder if that's ever, because like in the online space, does anybody really care as much as it is, or just not care, but is there less confrontation online versus being face to face with somebody?
I'm interested to hear the feedback, but my gut instinct is no.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. which,
because people always hide behind their screens. So
yeah, that's a good point.
if they're aware, you know what I mean? So no, I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah.
And just hear about, additional avenues within our industry. I mean, I think people sometimes think it's very like one-dimensional, this industry that we're in. Like, there is whiskey, it's made, it tastes great, we taste it, we drink it, we do events. There are so many other elements to this side of the business, and I think showcasing a couple of those in variety.
Yeah.
Like, how do your cocktails make it to you? Like, local spirits versus international spirits, online versus in person. I mean, there's so many conversations to be had. And I think you and I both have had, the experience with the brands that we work with.
Yeah, we've been both local and
exactly
far away.
Exactly. And I think that bringing maybe a little bit of that knowledge to the listeners as well would be really cool, of how many aspects there are.
Yeah, because like the local thing has changed a lot, especially since you and I both used to work for local brands. I mean, for me, it's been 8 years, something like that, since I worked for a local brand, and you could already see it kind of trailing off from there. Like that whole like craft beer effect was like, drink hyper local, like come support these brew pubs, and then slowly those breweries started going into different markets. And that's a different story about what's turning out to that industry right now. But with whiskey followed that path, I guess, or that blueprint, what breweries were doing. And I would say here by 2017, 2018, people are like, nah, like the local thing, there's so much more to explore, kind of putting that to the side and going a different route and seeing if that's kind of coming back at all in the last like 6-7 years.
I'd be curious to hear, because I think I'm so far removed from it at this point that I wouldn't know.
Same.
So that's really cool. But yeah, I think that just hearing different perspectives from different people, different women, about their experience in the industry, what matters, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it overall.
Same. No, I'm like, there's one person we're having on I used to work with, and my wife used to work with her as well. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They used to work in the same Beam Suntory together in the same office. And I was wondering, just like her perspective, like, okay, you start in this giant company, working in an office, a giant office for a giant brand, then kind of going to working from home, like, because we were just remote working for Starward. Like, like the office is 8,000 miles away. And then unfortunately we didn't get a local one. So like working from home and like now running her own business, like how that's
so amazing.
Yeah. How that's all evolved and like what the difference are, like just being on your own, like going from like kind of a situational, prototypical 9-to-5 job to like something that is truly reliable on just you to succeed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, talk about excitement and intimidation.
I would just be scared.
Oh, knowing her, she's
not scared. I would be scared.
She's not scared.
No. Don't get that wrong. I'm terrified to ever start my own business. It's why this podcast doesn't really make any money.
Not yet. We can change that.
We can try to.
Watch these upcoming episodes change the game.
Yeah, it could. Consistency always does help.
Yeah.
Also, not recording in a basement, which is also like one thing I told you. I'm like, I definitely have women kind of give me that weird look of like, oh yeah, like we record at my basement in Callum too. Like we both have gotten that. I'm like, don't worry, my wife will be there. And it's like, does that make it sound weirder? Or
makes it, yeah. Which is why we'll be recording publicly.
Yeah. Well, we are, so that's great. But we will be recording at Slightly Toasted, one of our favorite places to hang out, and apparently one of our favorite places to record podcasts. Although every once in a while, I get weird audio picked up from a local radio station there. Yeah, it wasn't the charity raffle. It was one before that where I just kept hearing the singer, the bodyguard.
Whitney Houston. Yes, you said the bodyguard, and I said Whitney Houston. Yeah. We'd be good at trivia.
There you go. Kevin Costner. Oh, so hot right now. But it was like I kept hearing one of her songs in the background. I'm like, how is this? And it was really faint. You really couldn't hear it at the actual audio of the podcast. But as we were recording it with my headphones on, I'm like, why is this one song keep kind of fading in and out? So
I love it. That's
hopefully
great.
We won't.
I actually think I'm going to ask that question.
What?
I mean, not to give it away, but I feel like I should ask what the walkout song is.
To what?
What would their walkout song be?
If they're like hitting a baseball or softball?
Anything.
I like that.
Yeah. Because what would your walkout song be?
It's changed a lot. I've had one in the past. I used to be an athlete.
Okay. Well, now that you're not, what's your walkout
I'm
song?
still an athlete. In my head, I'm still 20 years old, even though I'm almost 40. But walkout song, probably. Well, I've thought about this actually quite a bit. So
I knew it.
Now I'm thinking too much about it though, and it's not really great audio. But probably a Taking Back Sunday song.
Oh.
And probably the chorus of a song deep cut called Miami.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we talked about Taking Back Sunday on our last podcast too. I feel like it always surfaces.
They're around. They're around in my life a lot. We're good.
I love that.
We're good friends. We hung out at Beat Kitchen one night.
Yeah.
10 years ago,
Okay.
12 years ago, 12 years ago. Wow.
Wow.
It was a magical evening where we were hanging out. Them and, do you know the band Thursday?
I don't.
Okay. Well, we were hanging out after the show, me and a friend with some guys in the bands, and we were sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, we went out to go smoke a cigarette, and we came back, and like all their equipment, their buses, obviously the people were just gone. And like, we were gone for like 4 minutes. Maybe we're gone longer. Mm-hmm. Time is irrelevant sometimes. So, but yeah, it was very strange. Like, it's like it didn't happen.
Weird.
Just faded in the night. Yeah. And
Did you dream this?
I thought so, but my buddy Isai and I'm like, you did talk to, and then there was someone dying in the band Thursday. One of the guys was dying of cancer, and but it wasn't public, and they were having this heart-to-heart conversation. Lead singer him were having this conversation. I'm like, what? Because they were like in the corner by himself.
It sounds like a dream.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. So your walkout
Trust
song.
me.
There you go.
Maybe, I don't know. Long answer. Do you have a long answer? Do you have an answer or a short answer?
I've got a lot of answers.
I got more.
It just kind of depends on the genre. I probably have an answer for each genre, which could be really fun and really extensive. So I will spare everyone.
Give us. Let's go with an R&B.
R&B.
Oh yeah,
like slow jams R&B.
Like Boys to Men R&B.
Okay, this is fun. This is great for me actually. How about "Close the Door" by Teddy Pendergrass?
Solid choice. Is there a certain part? Because walkout songs you only get like 20 seconds.
Oh, I mean, obviously I'd have to listen to it, but it'd probably be the chorus. Let's be real.
Cool. Yeah, it's always the chorus, right?
Yeah. I'm like, you went R&B slow jams for a walkout song. I feel like that's pretty. Yeah, it's not really the hype.
I can't remember the band's name. There's a song called "Saints and Cigarettes." Mm-hmm. It's like it's a way too long of a song, but the last like minute and a half is solid for like. I always think this would be a great song at like the X Games during like a vert semifinal or final.
Did we just change this to a music podcast?
It's happened before.
I really enjoy it.
Matt Brown and I went over about a 20-minute discussion of bands with numbers in their name. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
His favorite.
Must have missed that episode.
His favorite was Three Doors Down.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. That's
where he went with that one. Of all the choices, Sum 41 on that note just retired as a band allegedly, but then the comeback.
They always come back.
Yeah, make more money that way. It's life. It's like fashion, cyclical.
Whiskey, music, fashion.
That is interesting. I've never sold a bottle in the secondary market, and I don't think I've ever bought a bottle. I've had friends like say, "Hey, do you want this?" Like, I don't want it. I need to get close my bar or narrow down my selection or collection. Would you want this? Like, here, give me like $50, whatever. But I've been like really curious into thinking about what bottles do I have that could be sustain time and be very relevant in price going up in the future. Let's say 20 years from now.
Like a cute little retirement fund.
I mean, sure. Yeah, that Starward Vitalis unopened there. Someday, Dave Vitale's name will live in infamy, and I'll make $100 million off that one bottle. Yep.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe the Lagavulin.
I mean, that's a great whiskey.
That's a really good whiskey. Actually, Callum was waxing poetic about it at Arbea the other night.
Nice.
He's like, I got it out, and I opened the box, and I was just like, oh my God, this is so good.
Is that your Scottish accent?
No, I can't. Working for a Scottish company, I can't do a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
It's like when I worked for Starward, people would always ask me, can you do an Australian accent as you talk to us? I'm like, first of all, why would you want that? Like, what's the turn on for you there?
Yeah.
Or the positive outcome for it? And it's like, no, I don't also want to like put a bad name to all the people that I work with either. So
Yeah, that would be embarrassing.
It'd be very embarrassing because inevitably someone's going to pull out a video and then tag Star Wars in it eventually.
Oh yeah,
right.
That can't happen. That couldn't have happened.
I embarrass myself in other ways easily.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
Yeah. Anybody ask you to do a Danish accent?
No, but people ask if I'm Danish all the time.
I could get that. I could see that
All the time. Well,
Yeah.
now I just have to do the ancestry test or something and figure it out. Because what if I actually am? Then I'm like, wow. Yeah. No one asked me to do a Danish accent. It's very unique.
For some reason, when I had long hair, everyone said I looked Australian. I'm like,
I think it's an odd correlation. Like if you represent a brand and then they assume that's, I don't know. I don't know if it's like relatability or if they're just like, I mean, I take it as a compliment. Sure.
Yeah, you have Danish traits at least. Australian don't have traits. They're just British and Irish drunks.
Oh my gosh.
Or Italian. Sorry, Dave.
I'm like, Dave, are you listening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best is when he told me about like how they created diversity through immigration by having Greeks and Italians come to Australia. That's how his family got there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Tanner white people.
Interesting.
Like, such a funny country. But no, also Danes, their English is so good. It's almost
pristine.
like American speaking in a way. There's a girl I went to college with who was Norwegian, and I didn't know she was Norwegian for like 2 months because she spoke such beautiful English.
Yeah.
And it was like
I would
proper.
even beg to say better than some Americans.
Oh yeah. I always run if it's a lot of Kenyans and Nigerians that also probably speak 2 other languages other than English.
Yes.
They're like they speak the most beautiful English. You're like,
it's remarkable.
Yeah, and then there's us, klutzes.
Us, clumsy over words.
Sure, we say like a lot. At least I do. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's not like a bad thing to say you look Danish, but
no. So I never get can you do an accent. I just get the assumption that I'm
the better remark is, well, why aren't you from there? And you're like, what do you mean? Like, well, why is somebody from Australia? Why does an Australian distillery have American people working for them? Like.
Trying to grow in the U.S.
Because we're in America. Because it takes a lot for someone to move across the world and understand a market they don't know at all and invest all that money into it. I don't know. Do you want to go into it real deeply, lady? It's always a woman to ask me that too. I don't know why. Huh? And there's always women who are like, "Yeah, you have long hair. You look Australian." Now that I think about it, I don't have long hair anymore. Yeah, it just goes right into this conversation we're having. Yeah. I had a woman in Tennessee argue with me about how Star Wars wasn't bourbon. I'm like, you're 100% right.
You're like, no, you're correct.
Yeah. She's like, well, you can only make it in Tennessee. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy right now. And then she ended up buying like a $75 bottle of a single barrel from us.
Nice.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, we're friends now.
Whiskey education across the board.
Yeah. I'm like, well, technically Tennessee whiskey is bourbon, but they don't like to be called that. And you can certainly make bourbon down here. But
sure can.
Yeah, anywhere. You can make it in Denmark too. Not really.
We like to focus on rye grain. Not a whole lot of corn.
Is there other distilleries there now? Okay.
Yeah.
Do they use rye?
Yeah.
Is there barley there?
Barley, yeah.
Yeah, I assume there's barley there.
Tons of barley, tons of rye.
Makes sense. How much barley do you guys use?
We have one single malt expression, but barley is used in our rye about 30%.
Nice. Very cool. Interesting. Barley. World whiskey. Is it going to succeed? Is it going to take over the world?
World whiskey?
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
Okay. I'm actually more optimistic than our conversation in November, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Why more optimistic now than then?
I don't know, really.
Because if we're
reason.
all being honest, tariffs. So I mean, I'm a little stressed.
Yeah, that is an interesting conversation because there's good things that come out of tariffs. It's just a long play for that to actually happen in the economy. And I think the direct impact would be the American brands that you can focus on as a consumer. Like, cool, like maybe you drank this whiskey and the price went up, let's just say $10 for an easy amount. You're like, well, a lot of bottles I'd liked from overseas are $10 more now. And I haven't really got into these American small brands. So there's that way of going into it. Or
there's a craft conversation again.
Yeah. Craft is going to come back. Or local craft.
Local craft. There needs to be a word for that.
Yeah, because I don't like the word craft.
I think it's overused.
It is. Like, it worked in 2014. I was like, great. Yeah, it's a great word for it. And small is like demeaning in a way.
Yeah, and like artisanal is too long to say. and also inaccurate in ways.
There are like boutique artisanal brands.
Yeah, there are.
But I wouldn't say like, like a brand, I don't know, like Few. I assume they're producing, thousands of barrels in a year. Like they're not artisanal.
Yeah, so craft, small,
They're
artisanal.
they're also owned by a giant company.
I like local. I mean, I've been using the phrase hyper local a lot lately, even though Stauning's not local, our strategy is hyper local.
Oh yeah.
So I think like if you're working, but then again, you also have to like really dig in. Like, is your grain coming, from local places? Are you distilling locally? Are you know what I mean? So I think there are a lot of qualifiers for that too. So it's interesting.
That was my approach with Star Wars, like explain how it's local to Melbourne or Australia in general, to kind of relate it to like how that applies, how you can support that kind of thing as a consumer in America.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I
guess.
I like that.
Didn't work very well.
Not to air out our strategies, but we're really trying to blend the Danish culture and the Danish way of life, and like take the locality of what we do there and apply it to local aspects of Chicago.
Oh, I just remembered. What's the H word that describes...
H word. Oh, hygge.
Hygge. That's where... So, Saga Talk, where I got your bar placement, that's where I saw that game. Remember last summer? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All
Huge
right.
Scandinavian population over there.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So relating it all. I should have told
Tying
them
it all
that.
back together.
I'm going to have to text Dustin, I think his name was. I have his card somewhere. We're good friends. About what he has on his back shelf to apply to all of his consumers there.
There you go.
Yeah. I actually want to like move to that town, but it's very expensive to move there now. Yeah, it's like more expensive than Chicago to buy a house there in Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been up there, so.
Well, it's not that far away.
I've been told I should go.
Speaking of a local, you can stop at Journeyman Distillery, have a great lunch, some cocktails.
That came up yesterday as well.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. What are you doing?
I was having cocktails with a girlfriend, and she goes up to Michigan a lot and had stopped there last weekend. Had a great time.
As Chicagoans do. Like I told you, 90% of people that are there.
Well, for me to be a true Chicagoan, I guess I should venture up.
You have to go to Journeyman. North. I almost took a job with Journeyman back in the day, and I think like I would have to go to the distillery a couple times a week, which is it's an hour and 15-minute drive without traffic. So, but it's also a different time zone.
Oh yeah,
it's an hour ahead.
Yeah,
in Eastern time. So if we are gonna do it, we we're gonna move to one of the South Side neighborhoods so I could get there quicker, but also make it home faster, so I wouldn't be like living in two different worlds essentially.
Yes.
That would have been very confusing though. I don't think I would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I have to leave at 5, but it's actually 4 or something. Vice versa. So,
yeah.
Bad story, but just wanted to tell you that.
Well, I have to go to Michigan.
I bought a bottle of their bourbon that was finished in a local wine cask.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure how good the local wine in Michigan is, but the barrel made for great for finishing whiskey inside of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I'm excited to go check it out.
Yeah.
Sure. I've never been.
They have a putt course or chipping, kind of bit of both on there. Yeah.
Cute.
Yes. The founder, Bill, he learned to distill at Lark Distilling in Australia, the same distillery that Dave from Star Wars learned to distill at. And they like just missed each other.
Oh, that's wild.
And so one day we were at a local event in Chicago, and we ran into Bill at a taco place, and I was like, "Oh, it's finally coming together! Like you two," and there was like no magic or spark. They're like, "Oh, hey, hi, yeah, we're leaving. See ya." I'm like, God, I've waited for this moment for like 4 or 5 years.
You waited for that moment,
yeah. Expectations, keep them low.
Keep them low.
Just like booking guests on a podcast. Trust me.
Okay.
Our guests are going to come through.
Our guests will come through.
But the usual, I
I always come through for you.
That's true. I appreciate that.
I'm consistent.
Yeah. You're probably of the cast of characters on this podcast, you're probably the most consistent one, I would say. Matt Brown's getting there.
Yeah.
Wilson, he may or may not be alive. Who knows? He's alive. Well, I probably shouldn't start that rumor because I did say that Callum got nearly killed on a scooter accident one time, and people believed it, including his parents, I believe.
And they called him and they're like, hello.
Yeah, or I put something out there. So no one's dead other than Gene Hackman.
Just missing.
Gene Hackman was missing?
No.
Oh.
I said no.
People are missing.
Yes.
People.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Well, hopefully this will be a new leaf of consistency for you.
Yeah, I always go into each batch of podcast /guests with that hope, and sometimes it just turns into me ranting into a mic by myself in my basement, and I never release that.
The unheard recordings.
There's a few.
Oh.
I don't think there's any solo ones, but we've lost some along the way.
Yeah.
Actually, my biggest regret with this podcast is I did a podcast with my groomsmen before my wedding.
Oh, that's really special.
The audio got lost.
No.
Yeah. Like one of the XLR cords was slightly unplugged and it messed up the entire audio of everything. And my photographer, who was a good friend of mine, also is like an audio engineer, musician guy. And he like saw it and I was like, oh shit. And we were like 45 minutes in and I'm like, well, might as well just stop. So that was the one that sucked to lose. But
that is a tough one.
Yeah. Wilson was crying a lot on it. He cries a lot. You never met him, but he's a crier. But yeah, we lost one with Joe Henry one time over COVID. I think we all were pretty
bummed about that.
Well, sloshed, I was going to say.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Because we were all sitting. I think it was, I can't remember if Callum was with me or if we were all on Zoom in separate places. Joe is definitely in Wisconsin, but I told him, like, make sure you wear headphones because if you don't, you won't be able to hear yourself and there could be background audio. And there was horrible, horrible background audio the entire time that I couldn't hear on his side, but he would have been able to hear on his side. But anyway, yeah. So there's things that happen like that. No major ones, I guess. Mm-hmm. Anything else you're excited to talk about?
I think that wraps it up. I just think it's what?
I don't know.
What?
I guess it's a good intro to what we're doing.
It's a good intro. Yeah. I think it's important again to just highlight and celebrate women that are in the industry, and that's my goal. I mean,
is there any way you've individually try to do that like on a daily basis or like weekly basis?
Yeah, I think supporting each other, reaching out, checking in.
Checking in's big.
Checking in's huge, honestly. I think that's super underrated.
Like with all your friends, people.
With all your friends, but also in this industry, just checking in because I think we all, read the doom and gloom of our industry on a daily basis, hear the doom and gloom.
Which you and I walked into that last week while checking in on somebody, which was
yes.
Yeah, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, me either.
But, it's kind of one of those things where it's nice to do and then follow through.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, checking in, I think, in general and kind of hearing about upcoming plans and of how to make the industry better. So, yeah, I mean, sharing ideas, I think. Sharing ideas and checking in is what I try to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's one part of the industry that people have, from this podcast, people would never have guessed or understood is like how much we all work together, even though we don't work for the same companies.
Oh, totally. It's completely underrated. And I think too, that's the other thing that's like we're able to shine a light on now and consistently, like through the podcast and other avenues, is we actually all do work together.
Yeah.
Because I think it's hugely important.
Is that a thing that women could do better together, working together?
Yeah, I think there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, because I know guys are just like more laid back, I guess, sometimes about it, but like whatever. And just talking from women I've had conversations with, they're like, yeah, it's like not always the easiest to work together with some other women.
I think collaboration's pretty hard.
Okay.
And I think getting past that and collectively owning ideas is really nice. Like healthy collaboration, I think it just across the board could be improved.
I agree. Yeah, it's not that hard to do either. Like people see like our podcast the other night, how many reps did we have there? How many retail store and whiskey people that were, essentially competitors, but kind of all working together for a common cause.
Together and working for a common cause. Like I wish that was, I think that's something that I'd like to do a better job at.
Yeah.
Is in rooms like that, pointing it out, calling it out.
Oh,
you know?
For sure.
Like,
please do that with me next time. Cause
sure.
I would love to have stepped in that moment. Not to be like,
not that. I wasn't referring to that, Jake.
Not to be like the knight in shining armor kind of.
No,
but more just like I don't like assholes.
Yeah, no. I appreciate that. We will leave that conversation at bay.
Okay.
But no, what I meant is calling it out, like in that room of people. How many people did we have from brands? How many people did we have from retailers? How many people did we have that were just consumers that wanted to donate, from whiskey clubs, from influencers? I mean, I think it's really important to look around a room like that and realize there are so many people, women specifically as well included, that make the industry great. that make the industry what it is.
And
so
you can do good with a lot of people.
You can do good with a lot of
people. People are looking to do good too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to plan another one for like May-ish,
cool.
like that for World Central Kitchen, which I always love supporting since that money goes directly to what they're doing versus... Yeah, never know where your money goes sometimes with charities.
That's
so,
true.
and I like the way we did it too. It worked out the best where you could just donate through Instagram directly to the charity versus like
fantastic.
going through any
Super smart.
POS or like someone like giving me $3,000 in cash and like helping this stranger. For a lot of people that were in that room will actually do the right thing with that money. So I think we'll do something like that again. Get more brands, get more people, and use that Plinko board.
Oh, that board looks pretty sweet.
We're gonna use it because there's a number in each slot, and so we'll just number bottles and then play the Plinko board and whatever number you get.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. No, I think it was great.
Cool.
So yeah, collaboration.
Cool. Well, this will be fun. And we'll start releasing those podcasts all throughout this month.
Great. I really can't wait. I can't believe I'm co-hosting.
Thanks for approaching me with the idea, and
My
thanks
pleasure.
for following through with it too.
Oh, consistency is key. I'm reliable.
It's the word. It's the word of the day. Well, appreciate it, and I guess we'll talk very soon on microphones again.
Yes, we will. Cheers.
Right.
Thanks.
Cheers. See you, everybody. Check in. Call a friend. Callum, are you live? Goodbye.